if you want to be great, you're going to have to do more. Whether that's after practice on the field or off the field watching film of yourself, of the opponent, anything, but you have to do more. And I think that helps you be prepared for any given time, And I think in terms of how to be ready is to stay ready.
He is a linebacker from the University of Cincinnati, from Detroit, Michigan, signed with the Minnesota Vikings. Eric Wilson's in the building. Clap it up.
Yeah.
Clap it up.
What's going on, bro?
How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good to see you. Welcome back to Cincinnati. Welcome back, man. I'm excited for you. I'm excited. It's been it's a blessing, like, seeing you grow, like, from school, going to church with you, and then here you are, you signed with the Vikings and up there with the Mall of America, so be sure to buy me some shoes and stuff, hook me up, and everything. So we just go right up into it. Originally, I know you had committed to Northwestern, and you were playing safety at first.
Yep.
So what made you, switch to linebacker after 2011 when you committed?
Yeah, in high school, I kind of played a lot of different positions through my freshman year, all the way, I changed positions from running back, receiver, tight end, safety, linebacker. So I kind of played it all throughout my high school career. But, going down to it, getting offers and whatnot, I think a lot of people had the vision for me just, based off of my build to move me to linebacker from safety. And, I had offers to play receiver, too. I was actually a first-team All-State receiver. Yeah, and so, I kind of had to make that decision whether or not I wanted to play offense or defense in college. And I think that there was just more opportunities to make plays on defense. You never really know when you're going to get the ball on offense. You kind of, sometimes you just run around. Sometimes you might get the ball thrown to you, know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing. Like, I used to play NCAA football. Bring the game back. I need the game. And what was that? Road to Glory mode, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Road to Glory mode. And I like playing offense, but sometimes I would try playing defense. And I was so impatient because I'm like, man, they're not throwing the ball my way. I'm not getting no picks.
Right.
And I'm like, man, like, I wonder is it like that in real life? But I know you played double side. You play offense and defense in high school. You ran track. You played basketball. You did it all. So you were used to being in all different type positions. So I think that definitely helped you when you got on the field. You were sideline to sideline. So when you left Northwestern, what made you transfer from Cincinnati, and what made you transfer from Northwestern and go to Cincinnati in the first place?
Right. Yeah.
How did you get here?
Yeah. Going kind of through that process of figuring out where I wanted to go, I think I was just in an immature state of mind. Like, I just didn't know a lot. I was young, 17, coming out of high school, and, it was just a weird experience. That's a lot on your shoulders, picking out basically your future. And, I think that, my parents really wanted me to go to Northwestern. It's basically an Ivy League school, and, Lord blessed me to be the first one in my family to graduate from college. So, I think that, it was just an immature decision to go there in the first place. So, luckily, everybody says it's who you know, not what you know. So, my first offer was Toledo, and, the coach that pretty much got me my offer there ended up, by the time I'm going through the transfer process in college, he ended up at Cincinnati. So, he knew what, he thought of me as a player. So, I was fortunate enough to have that, connection here. I loved it. Cincinnati is amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And see, a lot of people, I feel like, even like people who are just going to college, not playing any sports, they become pressured on which school to pick. 'Cause a lot of people outside, like maybe their parents or friends, like, oh, you should go here.
Right.
And when you're young, it's like, dang, this is a huge decision.
Right.
Like, this will literally change your life, like the people you're gonna meet and just everything. I know when I was going through the process of picking what school I was going to go to, I was like, man, this is huge. This is huge. And so I think that a lot of people go through that. Especially when you're young, when you just went from having to raise your hand to go to the bathroom,
right,
to now you picking what school you gonna go to for the next 4 years. It's like, man, that's pretty huge. That's pretty huge.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is.
Because when I was in high school, I was feeling the same thing. Like, I didn't have any offers. I mean, I had some Division II looks and some Division III, But I wasn't really trying to think about it because everybody was, I'm going to Stanford, I'm going here. And I'm like, all right, well, my ACT score ain't good enough to go to those type of schools. Like, where am I going to go?
Right.
So I was feeling that anxiety. And I'm not even a highly recruited athlete, so I could only imagine, what it's like when you got everybody in your ear, like, hey, go here. Go here. And hey, don't forget about me, give me those tickets. Like,
right.
You got to deal with all of that. So that's a lot. And just seeing people grow. But part of growing, like you said, is who you know and just being mentored. So when you came to Cincinnati, everybody has a mentor. So who were people that kind of poured into your life when you came here?
Right. I think, one solid mentor I've had kind of all my life was just been my Uncle Mark. He's kind of helped me kind of decipher through the decision I wanted to go, choosing what college I wanted to go to. He always put his input, but he can't make the decision for me. At the end of the day, it's my decision. So that's kind of like the decision I made to come here. I came on a visit and liked it. And so, he's been a football head. He's kind of gave me that knack for just finding the ball and always having high motor, which has led me to have a lot of plays on the field and make a lot of plays and just be smart off the field, really, because that's what messes a lot of guys up, just get caught up in the stuff outside of football, not having their grades right and just little petty stuff like that. And, I think he's really helped me. And, I think, one thing that a lot of people, I think, try to warn you about is say, like, don't transfer out because you have to sit out that year and it's going to hurt you. But I think it's really all up to that person and their mindset they're going to have once they do transfer because, having that extra year, like I said, I was just, kind of immature mentally and physically, making that transfer from high school to college. I came out of high school at 205 and ain't no 205 linebacker running around, playing ball, especially in the college level. So, I think that time gave me a lot of time to, mature mentally and, gain some weight so I could actually make an impact on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, and like you said, a lot of people get distracted off the field. So how does somebody, like when you are a Division I athlete and, people get caught into that limelight a lot of times, how do you stay a good student? You know what I mean? How do you stay on the books and how do you, balance the time,
Right. Well, I mean, one thing that kind of always in the back of your mind that, our academics tell us all the time is if you're not eligible, you're not going to play. This is just as simple as that. Like, if you don't got the grades, you're just not going to play. Like, they aren't going to pay for your scholarship and for you to out here flunking grades. And not going to get your degree. Because at the end of the day, we're really here to get our degree. But at the same time, we love playing this game, and that's kind of why we're here too. So it's kind of it's kind of two things you got to do at once. But at the same time, there's that third bucket, and you're like, go out, do this, and just have that, social life that everybody thinks of that at college is like.
Right.
So I think you really got to find your balance. There's no easy answer for it. Everybody's different. Right. Everybody likes things. Some people don't even go out. I know the people on our team who
I rarely saw you out.
Yeah.
And so that's impressive. Like, I went out pretty often in college, and we had a class together. I think it was sports marketing, I think. And, even he helped me out sometimes. I would be like, hey, Eric, what's the answer? Trying to figure things out. So, what were some good study habits that helped you graduate in college? And, what did you do to really stay focused to get that degree?
Right. One thing, I mean, when you're just an athlete, they give you so many resources. And especially here, everything's in one building, which is amazing. So you don't really have to go anywhere or put a lot of effort into it. But they give us tutors. They give us, academic club, which is basically you got to have somebody there, from a block period of time to just help you with whatever you need. And if you can't find a resource, they're going to find it for you. And, I think they just give us so many resources to help us if we need help, because a lot of people need help, without even knowing it. So they kind of start you off there and see how you do through your career, and if your GPA is going down, you're going to stay in there. But if you can, maintain your grades and get a good GPA, then they figure you find your own. Yeah,
that's what helped me my freshman year at Miami Middletown when I played basketball. We had a team advisor. We got a chance to schedule our classes before everybody else.
Right.
And if they felt that we weren't doing our part. They would meet with us. We had study tables. So that's the benefits. Definitely, when you're an athlete, you have a whole team of people that's going to hold you accountable and help you grow.
That's important. You know, having a team around you.
Being a coach, the coach is in the room.
Right.
You know, I saw the one time your player couldn't play.
Yeah.
And you had to get on them for that.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, and what I told him was, at the end of the day, one thing you should learn from this is that the show goes on. You know, the show goes on no matter who you are. If you are ineligible, we still gonna play.
Right.
That don't mean we don't love you. That just means we still gonna play.
Right.
The show goes on. You know, and I hopefully he learned that lesson. I'm sure he did. But the show will always go on. Always.
With or without you.
With or without you.
Yeah. I think Lupe had a song. What was it? I think it was called that.
Yeah,
The show goes on. Yeah.
Shout out to Lupe.
Lupe.
Come back, man. We miss you, man. I ain't heard him in a minute, but shout out to him. You know, after, like you said, you know, all of that, and you end up getting your degree. What'd you get your degree in again?
Sport administration.
Sport administration. So you can do a lot with that. You know, I used to major in that. I ran from it because I wasn't trying to take no calculus and no math. And I went to communication. I was like, well, I'm not trying to speak Spanish. And so
it's always going to be something.
It's always something. So the more the story is, you're not running from adversity, you're not running from hard work. You're going to have to put in work. But what would you see yourself doing when it's all said and done and you're not playing football with your degree?
Yeah, I did kind of a lot in my college career to try to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. And I had my internship with facilities and operations, and I think that helped me just understand that there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, like 2-3 hours of work just to put on the game and have it set up, you know, at game time. And I think that just gave me a broader perspective of, you know, things that go on in sports. And, you know, I can see myself doing a lot of things just because, you know, all my experiences with sports, and, you know, that's what I'm continuing to do, and that's what I, you know, kind of expect to do in the future. And I think just using my experience to, you know, influence other people, whether or not they're in college or even the youth, I think is very important just to, you know, share my knowledge.
Mm-hmm. That's the best wealth in the world is knowledge. You know, when you can share it and learn from it, that's huge.
Right.
That's huge for sure.
Sure.
And even though, like in college, you know, you had the great career you had 265 tackles, you know, 3 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 7 fumble recoveries. You know, you had a great career, but you ended up going undrafted, but got picked up right away by the Vikings. So how exciting was that for you? When you got picked up, did they talk to you prior to the draft and was like, hey, we may not draft you, but we're going to sign you? How was that for you? How was that process?
There's a lot of stuff that goes on, and there's a lot that I don't even understand now of how they determine who they want and when they want them. 'Cause,
right.
You know, I went on, 5 visits to teams before the draft, you know, so in my mind, the 5 teams are interested in bringing me out there. Who knows how many teams just don't want to show interest, and how many teams, you know, are interested but aren't telling me or my agent. And, you know, there's just so much that goes on. And, you know, I think it's everybody's dream to be drafted, you know, but at the same time, it was a blessing going undrafted because then I get to pick where I go.
That's what I've heard.
Teams start calling me right after the draft and so what you heard? Like, have you signed yet? Are you interested in being a Raven, a Charger, or, you know, whatever team it is?
And you can just sit back and weigh your options.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's what I've heard, that that's how the process is. So that's interesting, getting a chance to learn all of that behind the scenes. And, you know, we're rooting for you, man. And, you know, prayerfully everything is going to God's plan, and you get a chance to excel on that field.
Yeah.
And stay healthy, too. So
right. It's all about getting your foot in the door, too, man. I know we was talking to Vincent Ray, and he went undrafted. And now he's on his 8th year being, with the Bengals. It's like, man. And he was talking about how there's people who he's seen get drafted, and he's been there longer than them. And they're gone now. They're not even in the league no more. So it's all about, once you get that foot in the door, it's all about, okay, how hard are you willing to work? What are you going to do? You know, it's the opportunity is there. So
just like, you know, when you look at top recruits, man, I was on ESPN, you know, just looking at past-time recruits. I like to just do research on certain players. And even like people from like University of Cincinnati that recruited years ago, and I'm like, man, he was a 4- or 5-star recruit. Like, what happened to him? But he was a 2-star and he got drafted.
Right.
You know, stuff like that. And it's just funny that certain people weren't ranked as high. And I'm like, was it politics? You know, was he really not that good? He just grows. So much that goes into it. Same thing in the league. You know, people that go to the league didn't think that was going to do anything, and they do. People that you think is going to be good, like Jamarcus Russell.
Right.
You know, what happened to him? It happened. So it's important to know, like Vincent was saying, that once you're in that same room, and like you were saying, you in the same room, you got to perform.
Right.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. I mean, even in the NBA, like, where's Kwame Brown? Where is he at? Yeah. You know, he was the number one pick.
Oh, I forgot about him.
Exactly. You know, so it's like, dang.
Darko Milicic.
Exactly. But we know who Danny Green is, right? From the Spurs.
Who the Cavs cut.
Exactly. And he was in the D League and worked his way up. So, like I said, man, it's all about.
The Cavs cut him, and he ended up getting a ring against LeBron with the Spurs.
Oh,
so
yeah. That's true. That's true.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the Cavs wish they probably had him now, because he would be great. Speaking of that, who you got, man?
Cavs.
I was about to say, I would have to ask you to leave the show.
All the way. I still got the Cavs jersey from.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. That the Warriors are definitely going to win. Probably in 5 games.
You might have to end the show.
Because here's why. Think about it. They was already deadly. Now they got KD.
There we go.
How can you stop a team like that? It's impossible to stop them. Impossible. I don't even know if they've won less than 10 points in this playoffs.
They play the Spurs next.
Yeah.
They sweep just as much as the Cavs did, though.
Yeah.
They on the same. They gonna see each other in the finals.
But think about it. We all know the West is harder than the East. We know that.
I don't know.
I mean, majority of the time.
Scoring,
I would say.
They don't play defense in the West.
But this year, I will say this. I mean, the Wizards are coming. The Celtics look good. Like, the East, it wasn't weak.
The Wizards are about to get eliminated.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be the Celtics. So it's going to be the Celtics versus the Cavs. I mean, they're going to sweep them. They're going to sweep the Celtics.
I hope so.
I mean, I would love for that, but Isaiah Thomas
don't think
ain't
so?
going.
Yeah. He's probably going to have like 80 points.
Yeah, he's not going.
I watched, what game was that? They was playing the Wizards, and John Wall had like 42, so it was a battle. This dude was hitting shots. This one time he got fouled, and he was literally like this, just threw it up, and it went in. I was like, oh my goodness.
Come on, Isaiah Thomas.
Yes.
I saw that. Man,
I was like, oh my goodness.
Shout out to Trey Burke, one of my favorite college basketball players from Ohio. See, if the Wizards lose, I'm blaming it on the coaches because you're not playing my boys. So,
is he on there?
Man, he's not playing. They signed Brandon Jennings, and
who's he gonna play? John Wall.
They need a backup point guard to come in there and eat, but it's cool. It's all good.
Brandon Jennings is on that team, right?
But he's not fitting the chemistry. They had a point guard. I mean, Trey was dropping 27 points in the season finale.
Really?
It shows
nobody know that.
Yeah. I just like to look at stats and stuff, man. I'll be looking at all of that. But it is what it is. Shout out to the Celtics and the Wizards. I want the Wizards to win, but it ain't looking good. Yeah. So anyway, how did you prepare for the professional opportunities that came your way? You know, you got pro day, you got, individual workouts. You may go to a complex and train for your 40 and different stuff. So what did you do to prepare?
So I trained in Mason, which is 20 minutes outside of here from UC's campus, and a great guy there, Cliff Marshall. He's now the Indiana basketball strength coach. So that's a major program. So that's huge.
I worked out there before,
and he guys have been through his program like Luke Kuechly, AJ Green, Vinny Ray went there, and so he's trained a lot of guys. So coming out of that final game of your season, you're going to be hit up by a certain amount of training facilities, right? So that's another decision you got to make after you make your college pick, and then you got to find out where you want to go train. There, I think what was important is they're faith based. So before each workout, we would pray, and when we're done, we would pray. And I think that, by being surrounded, like we said before, it's about who you surround yourself around with, to help you be great. I think that, being surrounded by, men of God, can only help me be, a man of God, which is, something that I've, been working harder and harder to be. Being baptized the 23rd of April was huge for me.
Congrats, by the way. Saw that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so I think that, every training facility, you hopefully if you put in the work, you're gonna get better. But I think that was the big difference for me.
Right.
And like Stu, you've always said, whether it's a coach or trainer, you're really as good as how you push them to be outside of the court or off the field.
Yeah.
And if they can help you grow as a man besides sports, and they've done their job.
Yeah.
So that's what matters anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Just not, not just physical training, but mental, spiritual training. That's crucial, man. Definitely crucial, because a lot of times we train physically, but then we don't last mentally, because whatever you do, it's going to be a mental battle too. So you might be physically ready, but you might not be mentally ready.
Right.
So it's just as important.
And the mental battle might be bigger than the physical.
Yeah.
And that's what set your boy apart, Kobe. We'll give him that.
Yes.
He's one of
the GOATs.
He might be the greatest of all time when it comes to mental toughness.
Yeah.
I mean, he just has it. Players are reaching out to him. Isaiah Thomas are reaching out to him. People are reaching out to him because they want to learn. Like, hey, how did you study film? I was seeing that Kobe studied like great white sharks on how to stop Allen Iverson. And I'm just like, man, like this dude is just. He's a weird, but it's in a good way.
Right.
That's what made him
great. But you got to be weird. You got to be weird.
That's why
you got to be
great. He was misunderstood for a reason, and anybody that is great, is going to be misunderstood at any point in time.
And see, like him, because he paid attention to the details, like you said, the way he studied film, it was just crazy. And when you have that obsession, you got to be obsessed. And obsessed has a negative tone to it. But man, you got to be, whatever you do, you have to be obsessed with it. True. You got to be up at 2:00 in the morning, like, oh, I forgot to eat, because you're obsessed with what you're doing. You got to be. That's why he got that heart. He hit his chest. Because he's obsessed with it. A lot of people are just doing it. Okay, yeah,
he's going through the motions.
Yeah,
right.
I want to do just enough to stay where I'm at, but I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to stay up at 3:00 in the morning. I want to do this. I want to go out. So I want to do all of these different things, which is fine.
Right.
But you ain't gonna be Kobe. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. If you're okay with being decent, that's fine. You'll make good money being decent. That's fine. There's good money in being decent. But you ain't gonna be Kobe.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So it's like the Kobe, Jordan, LeBron, Steph Curry. These guys stand out for a reason. It's not like God sprinkles some dust on them. They're like that for a reason. Everybody has that potential. Everybody, right? But it's all about what are you going to do to excel? What are you willing to not just give, but what are you willing to give up? A lot of times, that sacrifice is important.
I saw a quote, man. It may have been a Doc Rivers. Don't quote me on this. And it said, average players want to be left alone. Good players want to be coached, and great players want to be pushed. They want to really be pushed. Like, coach, like, I want to work out. I want to do this, and it makes sense, because there were some coaches that just made me better. I didn't even know I was that good. Like, they forced me to believe in myself more than I did.
Yeah.
So that's important to have as a trainer. Now, I'm not sure if this is true. One of my boys is telling me this about you. Now, Vinny, he ran at 4.5. I heard you ran a 4.48. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
So, Vinny, we got some competition. Y'all may have to race. I'm like, dang, I ain't know Eric was that fast. It was like your pro day, right?
Yeah, my pro day, yep.
A 4.4?
It's even. It was 30 degrees outside, so.
It was 30 degrees?
It's 30 degrees.
Dang.
He was gone.
So if I got some good weather, it might have been.
Right.
Yeah. 4 threes.
That'll definitely, that's intimidating. I couldn't imagine that. A linebacker your size running at me like that, and I'm just going to run out of bounds.
It helped me make a lot of plays, honestly. Because a lot of the time, I was making plays I wasn't even supposed to make just because I was running to the ball. And that's something huge, in the league. Just being there extra when a guy doesn't make the tackle, because you don't know if a guy's going to make the tackle. You hope a guy's going to make a tackle,
just in
case. But just in case, you that backstop, saving the day.
You gotta be there, and that's with the linebackers, like the quarterback of the defense. So that's critical. Ray Lewis is one of my favorites that I will watch, and I'm just like, man, I've never seen a defensive player change a game like that. Yeah. And I feel like every linebacker, or anybody, even if you didn't play football, they look up to Ray Lewis because he just brought that passion to the game.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. So now you're in rookie minicamp, right?
Right.
And after you got signed, went there. So what have you learned in camp, and like what's been your hardest adjustment? Was it going to a new city? Meeting new people? What's been the the newest adjustment learning curve for you?
The biggest adjustment, I think, that'll probably be for most of the players, if not all the players, is just handling the playbook. There's a lot of plays, and you got to know your alignment to every play against every formation. You got to know all the blitzes. You got to know all the coverages, what everybody's around you doing, how you fit with them. And I think that
it's easier said than done.
Yeah, man. A lot easier said than done. I was right before I came here, I was writing down all the plays. 2 pages worth. That's defense. So I think setting, like we were talking about Ray Lewis, I think what set him apart was not his physical ability on the field, but what he did off the field. I'm sure he studied like crazy. I'm sure he knew his defense like the back of his hand. And I think being expecting what the offense is going to do, being ready for any adjustment you might need to do, you know, is just crucial to anybody's success.
And see, that's another thing. Preparation is key. It's key. It really is key. You know, like you said, you was writing down the plays, just trying to get it instilled in your brain and all of that, because repetition is, you know, very important when you're trying to prepare for something. So what would you say to like the young guys who, you know, just talk about like the importance of preparation, you know, because they say when preparation meets opportunity, that's when you see success. But you never know when your opportunity going to come.
Right.
You just never know. Tom Brady didn't know that he was going to get that opportunity, but when he got it, he was ready.
Right.
A lot of people get that opportunity and they're like, oh, I ain't do so well. I wasn't ready. I wasn't as ready as I thought I was. And sometimes an opportunity comes, and because you're not prepared, you miss it, but you don't even realize you missed it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I always say some of the greatest opportunities we've ever had, we didn't even know we had. Right? It came, it went, because you wasn't ready. Right. You'll never know. You always sitting like, wait a my moment. When you already had a moment, but you just didn't capture it. So talk about, you know, the importance of preparation for all the young guys out there just trying to get to where you're at.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've had Coach Tubbs here the whole time I've been here in my career, but Coach Fickle, I think that was a great hire, great guy, great inspiration. And something that he said during practices when I watched him was, if you do enough, if you only do what we require you to do, you're going to be good enough to be average. So basically, if you want to be great, you're going to have to do more. Whether that's after practice on the field or off the field watching film of yourself, of the opponent, you know, anything, but you have to do more. And I think that helps you be prepared for any given time, you know. And I think in terms of how to be ready is to stay ready. You know, one thing that I tried to do is stay stretching, stay eating, stay out of bars, stay, you know, being around the wrong people. If you know you got some friends that like going out, but you got this different vision of what you're supposed to be doing, don't hang out with those guys. Hang out with a different group of friends. And if you can't find them, you maybe need to find some new friends or just kick it by yourself. You know what I mean? But I think staying ready and always doing more is very important.
That's crucial. Because a lot of people just go to practice and that's it.
Right.
They just do what the team does and then they just leave. And once again, all right, like you said, Coach Fickle would say, you're going to be good enough to be average. And a lot of people accept that, which, okay, cool, that's you, right? But if you want to be great, if you want to stand out, then you're going to have to do more. It's all about what do you do when nobody's watching.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? What do you do when the coaches is not requiring you to do it, when they're not over your back, when somebody's not always looking at you? That shows, okay, this is who you really are.
Right.
You know,
True
not
character.
just true character. True character, exactly.
And I think that just building on yourself, finding out your own weaknesses, you know, being very self-aware of who you really are is very important to anybody's success. Because if you think you're something that you're not, then you're going to be doing something wrong.
Right.
That was my problem in high school. Like, when I look back at it, you know, I was on the team. We went to the Final Four in my junior year. And, you know, I had talent. And I thought I was working hard, but when I look back at it, I'm like, man, I wasn't working hard. I was just doing the workouts, going hard when the coach was watching. But afterwards, I went to go play 2K, went to go play video games, went to go chase the girls, and I didn't really do enough. So you look back at it, and it's like, dang, my dad was right. People were right. Like, I could have worked harder than what I thought I was doing.
Right.
And most of the time, like I remember when I would work out and you feel like you're about to throw up or you about to bleed, or most of the time it never happens.
Right.
You know, and then you're like, dang, I didn't know I could do that rep. You just have to push yourself to your next, limits.
And see, and that's something I always tell my guys when I'm coaching. I'm like, look, when you tired, don't quit. Because if you quit, you'll get tired at that same point every single time.
Exactly.
You got to push through, and that's when you level up. When you feel like you can't do it and you still push through, that's when you level up, and then you'll get tired at a later time, next time. You see what I'm saying? And so a lot of people quit, like, okay, I'm tired, I quit. All right, well, every time you're going to get tired at that same point right there every single time. So like you said, Jay, you got to push yourself.
A lot of guys, I think you said, there might have been 100 or so people there playing, like athletes, and I think only 25 or so signed. I was one of those guys, and the rest were tryout guys. So basically guys they bring in, I guess, and evaluate at that time, maybe see if they can hold on to the plays. Just in those 3 days, they gave us about 7, base coverages and whatnot, and 7 blitzes. So to learn all that in 3 days and be able to, basically on Sunday, be able to, 11 on 11, go through those plays and blitzes, I think, that's something that they evaluate on who they maybe want to sign after, rookie minicamp is over. So
it makes sense now that you start to learn how it all works. I never knew that. At all. So how, would you define, like, if you could pick one opponent, as a dream opponent, maybe it's a team or a player, who would be the dream opponent or player you would want to play against?
Or even somebody, because you're a linebacker. Who would you, if you could choose one person that you could just crack and make them fumble, who would it be?
I don't know, you always think about quarterbacks. I think playing against Tom Brady would be, great, because he's supposed to be one of the best, if not the best quarterback. And, if I play defense, so if we beat the Patriots, or we beat Tom Brady.
Right,
so,
yeah,
we beat the greatest.
Right, yeah.
So I think going against him would be great. Just a learning experience, because, just that whole week, everybody's going to be on their best because they know they're playing against one of the best. So, he's going to be ready, so you definitely got to be ready.
Right.
So, I think that goes for a lot of people in the league, because everybody, got to be on their best behavior, their best everything every week, because everybody at that point has their NFL player.
Right,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
You're not playing against, guys. I feel like at that point, guys aren't just going through the motions. Yeah. They're really doing what they need to do on and off the field.
Exactly, and that's why
prepared.
they're there.
Right,
exactly. Yeah.
Because I feel like that's how I'm able to have this opportunity if I've done things the right way on and off the field. It's just like you said earlier, I feel like I could have even done a lot more to be a better player, looking back on it, even in my college career. So, and I'm going to, of course, try to fix those mistakes so I don't, fall or go lower in the league, so I can do my best in the league and make the biggest impact that I can. And like you said earlier, like, I feel like I have a lot of potential, and to waste any of that in any way is just sad, honestly. It's just, wasting God's talent He's given me and what God's given me. I'm trying to make the most of it.
Yeah. And see, a lot of people, the pressure gets to them. We all heard of a practice player, right? Somebody who in practice they live, but when the lights are on, they crumble. Right. They crumble, and that's because of pressure a lot of times. And we started a sports brand for Anima under pressure, right? And a podcast is coming for it and everything. But what would you say helped you deal with pressure? What helps you when the lights come on and everybody's watching? Because like I say, pressure can either burst pipes or it makes diamonds, right? A diamond has to go under pressure as well, and once it does, it can't be broken, right? So what would you say is the thing that helps you? Because some people fold under pressure. So what would you say to them, to the person that's they're struggling with performing when it matters?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with kind of how you practice, because if you don't practice being your best under pressure, how you going to expect just to pop up and be great under pressure one day? So I think being great in practice and really treating it like it's a game. You know, you don't have to, knock people's heads off, but, go at the right angle, not, loafing, not doing, the things you know what you should be doing, just doing it all the time. I think kind of builds up, and like you said, helps you level up. So when it comes game time and you're in that pressure situation, 4th and 1, game on the line, you practice that.
Right.
And at the same time, you got to kind of envision yourself making plays. Just envision yourself doing anything great, honestly, can help you at that moment. Be like, oh, okay, I envision this. I'm ready for this moment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, kind of all of that kind of helps you be ready for it. But at the same time, when that pressure comes, you have to actually do it.
Yeah.
It's applying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. A lot of people have a hard time with application. They have a hard time. They do all the drills. They get all the advice on all the coaching that they can possibly get. But, one of my greatest little analogies, I always use it, I say it a lot in our shows, is I ask my players, who do you think the best shooter in the NBA is? And, of course, you get, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. And I'm like, well, what if it's John Doe? What if it's somebody you have no idea who he is? Or you might know who he is, but you just think he's average. But if they had a shooting contest with Steph Curry, they beat him. But but when it comes time to the game, they don't take the same shots that Steph Curry because of fear or doubt or whatever. And so you never know. And, nobody gets an award for what they can do. Nobody gets acknowledgement for what they could have done. Or he's going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. Because he could have. Nobody, that doesn't happen.
Right.
And so you just never know who is who. And at the end of the day, nobody really cares. So, what only matters is what you actually do, what you apply, not what you're capable of doing, not what you worked on, but what you actually do. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So,
and I think that's wasted potential.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like everybody has potential, man. It's just, I think it's yours to either excel or yours to waste. It's like, yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's always something that feels it, that you always ask this question. You always ask me what's there.
Yes, sir. What wakes you up? Because you put in a lot of work. You make a lot of sacrifice. What wakes you up every day? Like, all right, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. So, what's your why?
What's my why? I think my why is God. He woke me up. He woke me up for a reason. So, everybody might not know why that is, but you should do everything in your power to try to figure it out.
Right.
And just do. I think it's not necessarily for yourself, but for other people. You might be here for someone else. You don't even know that. It's not, everything's not, about me. I think I do the most to try to help other people out. And I think that, if you read the Bible, I've been doing my best to read as much as I can. And if you notice, most of the people do things for other people who are praised and who are, given glory. They're not doing things for themselves. They're doing things for others. So I think that's something a lot of people should, focus on, not doing everything for themselves or trying to get, benefit for themselves, but do things for others without even wanting to get something back for it. I think it's just very important.
Very good. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, doing, not just living for yourself, man. That's amazing. Last question, the same question that we always end with. When it's all said and done, you done played all the games you could possibly play. You done became a Hall of Famer, right? What do you want people to say? Eric Wilson was
inspirational.
I like that. Inspiring the next generation and the next group of people. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
This is not about me.
Right.
Like I said, I think that, anything that I should do should help someone else. That's kind of why, I want to do things, with sports, because I have experience and I can help other people. It's not about me. I might get some things out of doing this, but at the end of the day, I'm not doing this for me. If I get anything from the league, I'm going to do my best to help my family out. I of course have to have, food and a roof over my head, but I'm not going to be hoarding that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of people do. They forget, where they came from, or, the people that helped them get there. They forget a lot of times, because a lot of times you get that spotlight on it. You can get so caught up into it that you forget,
right.
You forget a lot of things. But, Jay always ends with his quote of the day, get the people thinking. Mm-hmm. So what you got for us today, Jay?
At the end of the day, I'll say this. If they don't ever laugh at your dreams and they aren't big enough, go get it.
Go get it. Go get it. Work hard, dream big. I like that. That's Jay Thomas. That. Jay Thomas. I'm Stu Anima, and we are here with Eric Wilson. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, appreciate being here.
Yes, sir.